did that come to be?
Real life best friends. We just clicked. Just felt like it was meant to be. It just kind of just made sense. We were already friends. We all gelled together.
How much of an impact has Brickhouse Baker had on your career?
He's the biggest influence on my career. The first person walked in and we saw was Brickhouse Baker. That night, he sat with us for like at least 3/4 of the show.
Tell me about wrestling the Ugly Ducklings.
The Ugly Ducklings, that was a very unexpected birthday gift from Sully Banger. I saw T in the crowd, and I said, I want to make a good impression on this guy. I introduced myself to him afterwards, and the rest is history. It was my partner, my best friend, and my other best friend, Chad. And we got to go in front of our hometown, man. Like, how can you beat that? I wrestled Dick Lane more than anybody else.
Steve-O-Lution was going to be wrestling Chase Del Monte.
For a singles competitor, Chase was the man for me. I see him putting on gear. I said, I'm not done. I said, hey, am I wrestling you tonight? He goes, ooh.
Oh, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Best for Business. This one's a long time coming. I'm pumped. Steve-O-Lution, thank you for joining me for this one.
Oh, yeah! Chris, it's great to be here, brother. I love it. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm pumped. Now, let's start off hot. Now, I listened to Leo Connors. I listened to a few interviews you've done, but briefly tell me about your start and how you got involved.
All right. Well, like most people in wrestling, right, you start wrestling with your friends. We'll say backyard, sure.
Yeah.
Everybody does backyard wrestling. So I went to a place in Manchester, New Hampshire, which very much was not accredited, but great group of kids, people in general, great heart for the business. WAW is the place, and 2012, September 29th, was my first wrestling match in front of a live crowd. So
wow.
That's it.
So I'm curious, looking back to like your most recent match, that first match, in Steve-O-Lution's eyes, what has been like the biggest difference you've seen of yourself?
I mean, first and foremost, technical ability.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it took me about like 2.5 years to actually seek that kind of advice. And you can just see it in the way I wrestle. Proof's in the pudding.
Yeah. So when I started watching you, what a lot of people were really familiar with was the Middlesex Express. Now, I've never asked you, how did that come to be?
Well, me and my partner at the time, Hot Rod, Stephen Broad, who eventually became Beautiful Stephen Broad, real life best friends. Met him when I was 16. He was 17. We just clicked. Both Steve, miraculously, both the same birthday. It just felt like it was meant to be. And we just looked at each other one day and said, hey, you want to do this wrestling thing? And my partner says, yeah, let's do it. And so then we tried. We did pretty okayish for people who had only had a handful of one-day seminars or reading a Les Thatcher book or UPW. But it wasn't really until we started, taking it seriously. We started wrestling in the South Coast of Massachusetts. Actually, our first booking was for New World Wrestling Extreme for Trooper Gilmore. Everybody knows Jimmy. Jimmy's the man. What's up, Jimmy? But yeah. Started rocking and roll, man. It was almost like it was fate.
What was the first interaction? Do you remember first meeting your partner?
Yeah, actually, I can't remember the year. If I did my math, I would be able to. But I was 16 with my next door neighbor, who was friends with Steve at the time, and just kind of went over to his house Halloween night, which is actually our friend anniversary is coming up soon. So
wow.
Yeah, so it was cool. It was cool. We just met. He was Batman, I was Scarface. Next thing you know, we're aces.
Now, when we talk about the Middlesex Express, I'm curious, how far into the tag team did you add Chad Epik?
It was probably within the first year. Definitely when we first started working for House of Bricks, he knew that all three of us were friends, and Chad had previously gotten us our first gig with WWE. And yeah, it just kind of just made sense. We were already friends. We all gelled together, and like, not for nothing, we were pretty sleazy. And the three of us together was just complete sleaze.
Yeah. Now, you know this more than anyone. My dad just loves in our text messages to call me a chud or to have you call me. So when did that start? You calling people that?
Honestly, chud was just an insult that we used all the time when we were living. And Chud, if you guys don't know what it is, it's an old B 80s movie, and like the creatures in it clearly were not very aesthetically pleasing. So
Mhm.
if anybody, if you know that if you got called a Chud, it's because you're hideous and you're
Oh,
ugly. But for me, I like to use the word Chud as in you're a chump and a dud, and you put them together, and you're a Chud.
genius. Now, one of the things I'm pumped to ask you about, I got his version when I saw him at New World Wrestling Extreme. Tell me about the first time meeting Brickhouse Baker.
It was at the VFW in Fairhaven on Middle
Mhm.
Street. It was before a Whaling City Wrestling show.
Mhm.
Whaling City Wrestling was the predecessor to ACW there in Fairhaven at the Phoenix Lodge. And we just went there super early. Like we had nothing to do. We were super excited. Like, all right, hey, it's our first show there. Let's show up early. Let's show face. But by the time we got there, everything was already done. So it's like, man, I guess we're just going to hang out. And the first person walked in and we saw was Brickhouse Baker. He didn't know who we were. First thing we did was walked up to him, said, "Hey, how you doing? My name's Steve. Also Steve." And yeah, kind of just how it happened. And that night he sat with us for like at least three-quarters of the show. I think maybe we were the first match, or maybe it was like a pre-show match just to see what we had before we actually started doing something there. And there was another team with us, the Firebirds, Relentless Richard Ripley, and Marvelous Michael McManus, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
And he sat there and he talked to all four of us, and two of us stuck around, and you know who those are.
Yeah, so talking about that, how much of an impact has Brickhouse Baker had on your career so far?
Uh, Really, he's the biggest influence on my career.
Yeah.
And I'm never gonna not say it that if it wasn't for his guidance and if it wasn't for him taking the time out to speak to myself and speaking to my partner, that we wouldn't be the wrestlers that we are today without him.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. So the Middlesex Express, it went for a while now. I didn't even know. Did you guys like officially like have a last match as a tag team?
So, if memory serves me correctly, our last tag team match was, I believe, it was a multi-team elimination match for a
Okay.
number one contendership for the Proving Ground Tag Team Championships. It was myself and my partner against the Haven, and I believe the Hoods and the Losers, and the fifth. I think it was a fifth team, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it might have been the Heavy Hitters, but I could be wrong.
Mhm.
Memory doesn't really serve me all
Yeah.
that great.
So the Middlesex, you have your final ever match. Looking back, do you miss it? I know the Perfect Strangers. We're going to talk about that, but the
Okay.
Middlesex Express is iconic.
Well, I'll tell you what. When you get to do something that you love, especially you get to do something that you love with your best friend, and for
Mhm.
all intents and purposes, your brother. You know what I mean? Um, I Some of the best times were in the
Yeah.
middle section, and I really enjoy my singles career now. But looking back on it, man, just like the stupid stuff that we did, and that wasn't even necessarily wrestling. It was the road trips to wrestle, and it was hanging out in the locker room. It was ribbing your friends. Like those things, I'll never forget. And I just think that without those times, I wouldn't be who I am today, and that also a big thing.
And one of the things you talked about, you and Steve, you shared the same birthday. I remember, I don't know how many years you did it, but you had, what was it called? The Steve-O-Lution?
Yes, we did for our birthday party. Yeah.
So in those shows, did you guys help or book the shows too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We did everything from making sure we had the place to rent, which was always the chop shop. Just make sure the talent was getting taken care of. I mean, like we weren't Rockefeller or anything, but everybody walked away with a little something in their pocket.
Mhm.
Also, we wanted to book shows that weren't like every other show that was happening. We
Yeah.
made things like an old school wrestling card, and honestly, the first one that we did was my favorite because everything flowed so nicely, and it was such a short show, and everybody was happy, and the turnout was decent, which was what shocked me at the time, but people wanted to be there, so I thought that was pretty cool.
And to go with that, I remember, I think it was last year, T Phoenix, I don't know if you posted it, but one of the beer garden shows, you got to help sort of book it. So was that something that was kind of piqued your interest, booking shows?
You know what? I see what everybody goes through when it comes
Mhm.
to booking these shows and the headaches that it could be. And honestly, it was a breath of fresh air for me. Maybe it's because it's not something that I do consistently, and it's not like something that's my job. But it was neat. it was neat because I know what I want to see in wrestling. So if myself as a consumer knows what he wants to see in wrestling, this is maybe my taste, but I know that I have similar tastes to a lot of other people. So hey, yeah, let me put ink to paper, pen to paper, and just see what I can get. And I thought it was pretty decent.
Oh, they all still hold up now. Something that is not like the others. I want to hear your thoughts because I think you've been with it since the beginning. Providence WrestleParty. Tell me about your experience there.
Well, I'm an OG of the
Yeah.
Providence Wrestle. I was at the first Providence Wrestle Party when it wasn't Providence Wrestle Party, when it was live Prov Wrestling. And man, it changed from the beginning
Mhm.
towards the end. It was more wrestling based in the beginning, and then it turned into entertainment based towards the end, which again, breath of fresh air. And also, that was the first place that my partner and I got to be good guys.
Wow.
And it was weird for us because we weren't used to it. And it's kind of like learning how to ride a bike all over again.
Mhm.
But we took to it like a fish to water, and it kind of worked out. Wild. It was wild. It was like, I mean, anything can be wrestling. Right? You can
Yeah.
categorize anything as wrestling. Like, and I guess that's exactly what that was. That was professional wrestling, and it was cool. It was unconventional. It was unorthodox. It was crazy, but it was cool. And shout out to Sully Banger, man. I love Sully Banger
Oh,
so
yeah.
much, and the wrestling community misses him, and I wanted to know that. And we love you guys, and just love you guys.
Yeah, we miss Sully. Now, let me ask you, one of my favorite matches, you talked about it. Live Prov at first was wrestling, and then it turned into more of like anything. But I don't know if it was like in the sort of the middle. Tell me about wrestling the Ugly Ducklings.
The Ugly Ducklings, that was a very unexpected birthday gift from Sully Banger. We got to wrestle them on our birthdays at the Black Box at Wrestle Party, and it was just wild because it was like one of the first real big, like, phenomenon wrestling tag teams that my partner and I wrestled. And, not to discount from wrestling Tito and Tony, because that was cool as hell too, which another experience. And if you want to talk about it later, we can talk about
Yeah.
that. But it was just cool, man. It was cool to do something different. And it was a packed house. It was rad. It was rad.
When we talk about Live Prov and you said you were at the first show, was the first show ever at the Black Box?
The first show was at the Black Box, yes. And if memory serves me correctly, it was the Middlesex Express and Tuba against the Sea Stars and Isana in a six-person tag match with Jocelyn on the outside and Buff Dad on the outside. And I'll tell you what, if you can't make comedy gold out of that, you're doing it wrong.
Is
And
there any footage for that out there?
you know what? I think I do have footage for that, and I'll search for it, and I
All
will
right.
definitely put it out there, and I'll tag you in a link.
Thank you. So let's talk about it. We talked about the impact Brickhouse Baker had, but let's talk about T Phoenix now. When was the first time you met T Phoenix?
Ooh, uh, I want to say late 2015. Maybe it was the summer of 2015. There was, as you know, the Chop Shop was, being rented out by a slew of companies and stuff like that, and I can't remember exactly who it was, but maybe I was at one of those shows and somebody saw me and said, "Hey, would you like to wrestle here?" And I said, "Sure." And if I'm not mistaken, maybe it was Nova Promotions.
Okay.
Now Supernova Promotions, but Nova at the time. And I was just trying to get my foot in the door anywhere down in that area. So I said, "Sure." Had a match with this big guy. I saw T in the crowd, and I says, "I know this guy's the company owner of the building or whatever have you." And I said, I want to make a good impression on this guy. And I just went out there and I just did my thing and introduced myself to him afterwards, and the rest is history.
So we're gonna talk about the Renegade Ring Rentals, but after all these years getting to know T, I don't know if you ever wrestled them, but what has
Yeah.
that been that like? Like just being with T Phoenix is with the Ring Rentals, you're on the road with him, you're hanging out a lot. So what's that been like? That must be cool.
It is cool. I have wrestled T,
Okay.
and I've also wrestled alongside T. But just it's just cool to get to know people. You know what I mean? Because you see people, for face value on the surface when you meet people, but you don't really know somebody until you spend time with them. And we've spent so much time with each other within the past year, 2 years, that he's become one of my best friends on the same level as Steve Broad. He's just a really nice person with a heart of gold. He seems very standoffish for the most part, but I mean, he's just a cool dude taking care of him and his own. And so he does a lot for the RWA, and he's done a lot for me in the RWA, and he does a lot for everybody in the RWA. He's just a solid dude.
When you wrestled T, how was he in the ring?
Well, I mean, He's T. You know
Yeah.
what? How do you think he would be in the
I
ring if
mean,
you were
I'm
wrestling?
thinking about T Phoenix wrestling Sean Leaders. When did you wrestle him?
Ooh, I want to say 2017, 18,
Okay.
maybe. My partner was taking a hiatus from wrestling, and I was doing Open Chud challenges at House of Bricks. And
Oh, okay.
I didn't, I never really saw T there, but Austin was there for a show, and I was like, oh, T's here with Austin, cool. And I was just chilling, and as the night's going on, and still don't know who my opponent is because 80% of the time I didn't know who my opponent is. I just walk out to the ring and be like, "Here's your opponent." Maybe that's embellished. Maybe that's about 40% of the time, but nonetheless, yeah, he was just hanging out there, and I see him putting on gear. I said, "I'm not dumb." I said, "Hey, am I wrestling you tonight?" He goes, which was clearly an
Yeah.
indicator. So, but it was cool, man. It was cool. If you're asking if it was a rugged match, well, yeah, of course. Look at the man,
Yeah.
and I would expect nothing less, and I would expect that he would expect, especially from a little guy like me, right?
Whose vision was it for the Open Chud challenge?
Uh, Honestly, it was Brickhouse's vision. Once Steve left, what can you do with a tag guy?
Hmm.
But you want to keep him relevant and you want to keep him still in the spotlight. Let's give him a gimmick, right?
Yeah.
So open top challenge. Okay, that's cool. The different opponent. There's no real long standing, storylines or anything like that. You just go out there and wrestle and show what you can do. You can
Uh,
have a match with anybody, right? If you can have a
yeah.
match with anybody, then kudos to you. So that's what I did. I went out there and did it every time. And I appreciated that because, again, that helped me grow.
Hmm. So now when we look at you for right now with the Perfect Strangers, now I see it on commentary and I've gotten to ask you your thoughts, but you've gotten to see AJP grow up. And when did you finally realize like teaming would be something you want to do? Because obviously with the ring rentals, and you spent a lot of time with him. But when was the time where you were like, hey, like let's try doing something together?
um, Honestly, it was probably the first year we were doing the rentals together.
Mhm.
For some odd reason, that summer, AJ and I were married together. Everywhere we went, that's what we were doing was wrestling each other. And it got to the point where it was just like, all right, I mean, we know what each other does. Let's just go out, right?
Mhm.
Let's just go out there. Have a baseline maybe, but just go out there and do whatever you got to do. And just spending so much time with them, period, just doing the ring rentals. And again, same thing with, like I said, with T, you get to learn people past the face value of who they are. And, super smart kid, super hardworking. It's hard when you're a second generation performer trying to live up to the expectations maybe of your parent, and I'm not 100% sure if that's the deal, but for me, if it was me, I would feel a little some way about it. And he's taking it in stride, and he's doing very well for himself. He's first and foremost, he's taking care of his life before wrestling, which is most important. And I wish that more people understood that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, smart kid. Growing up in the business is not easy, and he's done it pretty well. And for him to not be a complete mess is awesome.
Hmm. Tell me about the Renegade Ring Rentals. I don't know when like you officially made it a business because I know you're renting the ring, but I don't know when you slap like the Renegade Ring Rentals name to it. But it's been doing real good.
It sure has, and that's a vision that T and Austin had, and
Hmm.
they were renting the ring. Friends here and there, acquaintances that we know. Hey, Steve, can you help out? Yeah, sure. But it got to the point where it was like, man, now we're staying steady booked.
Hmm.
Okay, we need consistency, right? You always got to be on point. Delivery's got to be good. Your setup time's got to be good. And I got pretty good at setting up this ring with T, and he asked me if I wanted to stay full time on as an employee, right? So
Yeah.
sure, yeah, absolutely. Um, and doing that has just not only has it led to me, getting a little bit of a better work ethic, but it's also opened up doors for me in ring. If not for Renegade Ring Rentals, there's a lot of bookings on high profile shows that I probably wouldn't have got booked on, right? Like Teddy Show, for example. I'm very much, I don't want to say the stand in, you know what I mean? But whenever Teddy needs anything, I'm there. If I'm there with the ring, I'm there with my gear. I'm ready to go. I can do anything you want me to do.
Yeah.
So it's
That has
intense.
been, I've told Teddy, like one of my favorite things to do because anytime, in my opinion, when you get a match, you've stepped into the occasion. Like some of my favorite live pro matches, you versus Jermaine, there was a fit for it, the high school. Like
Yeah.
I've already said it. You're one of my favorite people to watch. So I want to say thank you for everything you've done for me over the years, man.
Well, I want to say thank you
Yeah,
because, obviously you've grown up in wrestling as well with your dad, you know what I mean? And to echo what I was just saying earlier about Austin and T, you yourself have been doing great, bro.
yeah. Hey,
And I want to say thank you for all the support over the years because you're always there and you've always had a positive thing to say to me. And that's great. But to backtrack to your statement, yeah, man, uh, I just do the best that I can do with what I'm given. And that's, I feel like everybody should do that. Maximize your minutes, make the most of the time you got. I'm an entertainer, man. So no matter what role you're going to put me in, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to entertain. And, I'll put a little razzle dazzle on top of it, especially if you're giving me an opportunity, I want to let these people know that the opportunity isn't going to be, taken for granted and I'm going to give them my all.
do you have a preference like singles or tag? Because you've done a lot of both over the years.
I mean, I'll be quite honest with you.
Mm,
I'm really loving my single stuff right
mhm.
now. It took me a long time to build that brand of Steven Lust up, especially coming from, not to pat myself on the back, but a somewhat successful tag team. We
Yeah.
were getting booked everywhere. We were doing things. And, life sometimes, has other plans for us. And I just had to adjust. And my singles run has been just, man, it's great. It's great. It's opening my eyes to the performer that I am and the performer that I can be. So if I had to pick one right now, it would be.
So I want to talk about singles, but first tag team. You mentioned it, wrestling Tony and Tito. How was that? How did that come to
Uh,
be?
Pro Wrestling Super Show. Brian Drew hit us up and asked us if we'd like to do it in our hometown, nonetheless, in a baseball stadium, nonetheless, against two WWF legends, nonetheless. You know what I mean? And we were over the moon for it. It wasn't expected. It was super cool. And I had already met Tony, I believe, once or twice at that point. Never met Tito. Super, super nice people, obviously. They took care of us. We did our best to make sure that we took care of them. And, it was my partner, my best friend,
Yeah.
and my other best friend, Chad. And we got to go in front of our hometown, man. Like, how can you beat that? That's like a memory that I'll never forget. And I like to think we killed it. Oh, and Rich Bass with the stripes on. Come on, man. Rich Bass.
Wow.
Shout out to Rich Bass, man. I love Rich Bass. I miss
Yeah.
that guy.
So, Stephen Lust, your singles career has been I think you said it, very successful so far. Now, let me ask you about some of the opponents. One of the guys, I don't remember the last time you faced him, but I remember growing up, one of the matches, it was in fact during Christmas time you wrestled him. Tell me about wrestling Dick Lane.
Dick Lane is one of the best homies I have ever met from
Mhm.
wrestling, period. Within the first, I want to say maybe like 2 or 3 years of wrestling in the RWA, I wrestled Dick Lane more than anybody else. It was
Mhm.
Dick Lane, it was Tom, it was Isana. It was just the three of them and myself and my partner and, whoever a third we would throw in. Dick Lane is probably one of the best people for me to be a foil to because of his character. Because he's zany, he's insane, Dick Lane, right? So who
Yeah.
doesn't want to do the crazy, silly stuff? Not for nothing, funny is money. Some cases, funny is money. But Dick Lane, not only can we do that funny, but we can go out and we can do some dope stuff because we both have great ideas and we both have wild offenses that we can use against each other. And he's the man. I love Dick Lane.
When we talk about a lot of the guys you wrestled a lot in your career, you said Tom, Isana, Dick Lane. Who else is on that list?
Sean Leader, I wrestled Sean Leader a whole bunch, especially within the first couple of years of breaking in. Mike Montero,
Yeah.
hands down, always pushes me to be a better version of me. I've known Mike for many, many years, for as long as I've been in RWA. He was the first person I wrestled in RWA. Funny story, I was supposed to wrestle The Influence, Jason Devine, and Mike Montero with my partner. My partner, unfortunately, couldn't make it that day, so it ended up being a singles match. And me and Mike actually had a really great match. We tore the house down. And if there was a seal of approval from T for me to be in the RWA or for myself and my partner to be in the RWA, it was that match. And yeah, man, Mike's the best and cool as hell. Thanks for making me better.
So when we talk about it, one of my favorite matches I've seen of yours, I've got to commentate, was you versus Ichiban. Now you've got to wrestle Ichiban a few times, so tell me about that because I've said on so many of these podcasts, he is killing it right now.
Uh, Ichiban is the man, number one, right?
Yeah.
He's doing all kinds of crazy stuff. He's got crazy athleticism, he's got crazy character work going on for him. He's aesthetically pleasing, bro is stacked, he's huge, freakishly strong. Like,
Mhm.
he's got everything that that it takes to make it. And I really hope that he does because he's cool and he needs to be everywhere. And I actually said that to him recently at a Fight Life show. I said, "Man, I said, bro, you're it." I said, "You're it. It's gonna happen." Cool
Yeah.
dude.
So something that Stephen Luss, I want to know your thoughts on when it happened, but it broke the internet. I want to say when there was an announcement that Stephen Luss was going to be wrestling Chase Del Monte for Proving Ground for, I believe it was Bad Medicine. So tell me about that match, the lead up to it, and when you found out about that, because like I said, I remember people were buzzing on all social medias about that one.
So forever, as long as I can remember, Chaotic was my first independent show that I've ever been to.
Mm,
First show I saw, I think Chase opened the show with Julian Starr. Maybe it was Julian Starr and Chase against the Logan brothers. But tag team wrestling, obviously with my partner. Always wanted to wrestle the Logan brothers.
yeah.
Lowell versus Lowell, right? I mean, it's cool as hell. That wasn't a possibility. So my partner and I were working. We'd go our separate ways in Proving Ground. Eventually, it comes to a pass where I become the Proving Ground Heavyweight champion, excuse me. And we're just looking for opponents, right? And Todd goes, "Well, who do you want to wrestle?" I said, "I want to wrestle Chase." And Todd and Chase, they've done some work together, behind the scenes. He proposed it to Chase, and Chase was okay with it, and that's just kind of how it happens. And not for nothing, for tag teams, the Logans was it, but for a singles competitor, Chase was the man for me at the time. You know what I mean?
Mm,
He was the coolest wrestler. I was like, man, I want to be cool like that guy, right? Fast forward, was thinking I'm not even wrestling at that point. So 2010, 2011, 12, 13 years go by. Now I get to share a ring with them. And, all my hard work and stuff that I've done leading up to this point, it was totally worth it. And couldn't have gone any better, honestly. I had a really great time.
yeah. Last summer, I remember talking to you before the match happened, but I remember Jose Perez. I forgot how many shows he only wrestled for. I think it was like 6 or 7 during the summer. But you were one of the
Okay.
matches, and I know you were looking forward to that one. So how did that happen? And tell me about that match in your eyes?
Well, I've had the fortune to wrestle Jose a whole bunch of times now at
Mm,
this point. Two singles matches and a tag match. And I was actually really honored for him to be like, "Hey, you want to wrestle?"
yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can't remember which one fell first, but I know the one that you're thinking of is the Fight Life show that
Mm,
we had sideline at Linesider
yep.
at the Linesider. And that was just cool because he don't wrestle all the time. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? He doesn't have to wrestle all the time. The man has done his time. He's done his work, and it's great. So if he chooses to wrestle somebody, and if he chooses to wrestle you, I feel like that's a badge of honor almost, right? A New England legend coming out of retirement to wrestle you. I took it very seriously, and the fact that he trusts me enough to wrestle him speaks volumes. So it was super cool. Really easy, man. I'm like, what is you know what I mean? Like
Mm,
it was great. It was great. It was a great experience because not a lot of people get to do that kind of thing. And I know a lot of people in my class of wrestling would have loved to have gotten in the ring with Jose and never got the chance to. So I definitely didn't take that.
In wrestling, people remember the first. So you were the first ever Energy King of the Coliseum champion. So what was that feeling like? And what has it been like to be with Energy legit since day one?
Well, not only was I the first King of the Coliseum champion, I was
Uh-huh.
also the first NRG heavyweight champion.
Oh, that's
Uh,
right, too.
so when a brand new company starts out, you want to make your first champion impactful, right? You want to
Mm,
make sure that they make a statement. And the fact that they chose me to be the first champion, it was it was very humbling because never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I would be champion at all. I'm just happy to wrestle.
yeah.
But when somebody has the confidence in you and the faith in you to do it, and they know that you possess the skills to do so, it was great, man. My run as the NRG heavyweight champion was awesome. I got to wrestle so many different people. I got to wrestle so many of my friends. I got to have great matches with people, matches that I never thought I would happen. First time ever encounters, and like it, it's just awesome. And then to become the King of the Coliseum champion on top of that was cool. Again, I got to wrestle people I never got to wrestle before, and I got to do things that I didn't think I would do. And it's just humbling, really, dude. That's the only way I can describe. Like I don't want to sit there and tout and pat myself on the back and make myself seem so cool. But it was neat.
Yeah. one of my favorite things to see when I was doing my research on you, at the end of 2023, you become the NCW Men's Wrestler of the Year. So tell me about that. All that hard work paid off at the end of the year. That must have been a good feeling.
It was a good feeling. It was a tremendous feeling. As a matter of fact, uh, winning the NCW Heavyweight Championship and the NCW New England Championship at the same time, let alone in the same match, was something I wasn't expecting. And for it to play out the way it did, and again, for people to have confidence and faith in me, again, humbling me. I like. I don't want to sit here and tell and be about
Yeah.
how cool it is, but like it is. You know what I mean? Man, I'm all embarrassed and stuff, but it's just awesome, and I had a lot of fun doing that kind of thing. JC, Mike Paver, great.
Yeah.
I love those guys. Also my homies, also my brothers. Uh, Ride or die with those guys.
When I did my research, there are so many stats on Stephen Luss. One of the ones that I thought was cool, it's not, I don't know if they're ever going to have another one, but you were the Iron Man at Watch This Fight Wrestling. You were the only guy to be a part of every show. So that must have felt cool, especially what Watch This Fight stood for.
Yes, Nick is a great guy.
Mm.
Nick is out of this world, and he not only is a great guy, he's a better friend, and he liked to take care of his people as much as he possibly could. And the shows that we were doing were all charity shows for all various reasons, ranging from breast cancer to helping a young man with, I believe, leukemia was his illness. Everything came from the heart, and I know I pride myself in being able to donate my time and being able to do something for somebody else. So at any point in time, Nick said, "Hey, these are my dates. Can you come?" I said, "Yeah, just put me down for all."
Wow.
Because honestly, there is nothing more important than helping your community, whether it's the wrestling community or the community you live in, or so on and so forth. That's really what it's about. It's about giving. It's about giving. What's that? Paying it forward, giving back. One hand washes the other, whether it's in wrestling or in life. And if there was a lot less me and a lot more we, man, things would be so cooler.
One of the favorite things that I loved seeing on social media, and I remember the buzz from it, was when you were announced for the Chaotic Countdown. Now, what was going through your head, and tell me about that experience.
Uh, Again, a bucket list item that I
Yeah.
didn't think was going to happen. I was approached and asked by Chase, like, "Hey, do you want to be a part of this? Yeah, I have a spot for you." Well, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I'm chomping at the bit for it. This is great. This is like, the place that I first started watching, and now I get to be here. That's rad as hell, right? Um, Locker room, cool as hell. Everybody I interacted with, super nice, super polite. Uh, the people I got to work with in the Rumble, awesome. Some people I hadn't get the chance to work with before. Some people I had worked with before, like AC. And it was just super neat to see what it's become,
Mhm.
because it's not chaotic of old. It's a new brand. It's a new chaotic, and it's a breath of fresh air. And I wish them all nothing but success.
Now, Stephen Luss, I'm curious, how many tag partners have you had in wrestling? Because we had Stephen Broad, we've had AJP. I wanted to get your thoughts on Nick Marchand team with him and winning the tag titles, and I think it was like 4 months?
Yeah, and still to this day, the only undefeated tag team in RWA's history. Not only were we undefeated, but we went out as champions. And not for nothing, nobody beat us for them.
Mm-hmm.
As you can tell, I got a little ding here,
Yeah.
right? Ain't nobody beat us for that. And I think that's something special.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of first evers I've ever done. And that being one of them is another feather in my cap. And I think that's pretty cool. And teaming with Nick Marchand has been, I'm overusing this phrase, but a breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, because it adds a new dynamic to myself. Because whenever you get to tag with somebody differently than what you're used to, it's like, man, now you're out of your comfort zone. All right, well, what can me and this person do? Should we do this? Should we be this kind of tag team? Should we be that kind of tag team? What should we do? And it's cool to challenge yourself, and it's cool to test your mind and to come up with new things to do. And Nick Marchand's great. Even as a singles competitor,
Mm-hmm.
he's great. I've had the opportunity to wrestle him a couple of times, one on one, and it's always been fun. And again, he's like one of them guys that don't get his due because he's not out in the spotlight, but he's a solid wrestler through and through.
I don't know if it was just me, but I feel like at RWA Legacy, that was to me the match of the night. So tell me about that match. You and Nick Marchand winning the RWA Tag Team Championships, but facing DUI, and that was a good match. So what was it like getting that 3 count? What was going through your mind? Because like you said, you are undefeated with Nick Marchand. You've teamed with AJP. You've teamed with Stephen Broad. A brand new tag team. It must have felt good.
Uh, Thank you for thinking it was match of the night. Working with Kellen and Anthony Stone is super easy.
Yeah.
Again, there's guys that I've known for years and that I've worked with for years. Super awesome. Kellen, man, Kellen's a beast,
Yeah.
right? Again, another guy that doesn't get enough due. Kellen's great, and Anthony Stone also so very great. He took some time off from wrestling, came back. Seems like he didn't miss a beat.
Mm-hmm.
It was electric, man. That place was packed.
Yeah.
Packed, 500 people, bro. Like that's a good sized crowd for a local independent show. I don't, not for nothing. I don't see any other companies drawing that kind of crowd right now. And that's no dig at anybody, but like numbers don't lie, right?
Yeah.
Super cool, man. And to have that moment for myself, uh, it felt really good. A little selfish, but it felt really good to be able to have that moment for myself. And the way it all came about and the way the crowd reacted, I couldn't have asked for it.
Now, I'm curious in your eyes. I want to know in your eyes the transformation, your thoughts on the transformation of Fight Life. Because I remember the first ever Fight Life you came. I remember hanging out with you in the back. You weren't even booked. And then you did the Battle Royal. And then all these years later, Perfect Strangers is the first ever team to compete or to secure their spot for the Fight Life Tag Team Championships. So what have been in your eyes, the transition of Fight Life? And even in you, because I remember early on you did something that was like Nepwell versus RWA, and then you did something with Sean Leader, and now you're clicking with AJP there.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to find your footing and where you're at. Fight Life had a pretty solid same roster for a few shows going in a row,
Yeah.
right? You knew you were going to get XYZ. It wasn't until maybe XYZ wasn't available, and then ABC started coming around. You know what I mean? And then ABC turns into 1, 2, 3, and then eventually you got a whole different roster,
Yeah.
right? I just think it was the time, and not for nothing. I feel like throughout my work, other places and Frankie noticing that and other people noticing that they saw that I've been doing really, really well in my career and I kind of earned it. So anything that I've done there at Fight Life, I felt like, maybe I've deserved it just a little, this one time when I'm not being so humble. It was actually really cool. And doing the thing with Nepwell was cool because I was like, bridging a gap a little bit for myself. Like, hey, I mean, this is cool. I'm getting to work with these students. That's awesome. These guys who are wrestling and these gals who are wrestling, all these people who are wrestling, new crop of kids coming out. I was like, that's great. And then doing the thing with Sean Leader was fun because again, I've wrestled Sean Leader a million times, and the fact that we get to bring our brand of wrestling and our style of wrestling to Fight Life. We never got that real one-on-one, which I've kind of always regretted not getting. But I mean, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Sometimes you can't always get what you want. And then leading into all the work with AJP, again, seeing AJP and I tag other places, you know what you're going to get when it comes to this.
Yeah.
You're going to get a solid performance delivered for you, for any company. So I felt like it was a no-brainer that.
I'm curious. I've asked a lot of people, but I want to know your thoughts. Fight Life, in my opinion, produced the greatest backstage promo. It was when the unit was backstage and AJP invited you to sit with them. Whose vision was that?
Honestly, the whole me sitting down with the chair thing, that was my idea.
Yeah.
I just, you know, I'm very dry humor. And I grew up in the '90s, right?
Mhm.
I love obnoxious things.
Yeah.
I love obnoxious sounds. Dumb and Dumber was really funny to me as a kid. So I was like, man, how annoying would it be if somebody just pulls up a chair and it's just screeching the entire time? Like, and it was perfect, and everybody played their part perfectly. And my favorite is Danny Miles. Made me laugh my ass off. All right, and Danny Miles, shout out to him because
Yeah,
I
he
love that
rules.
guy. I love shout out to the unit. Them all solid people, and I like all of them. So hell yeah, thanks for being a part of that.
It's been such a fun ride. Now, I asked you if you wanted to talk about it. So, I don't know if it was been a month ago, but Stephen Luster, you competed in 8-man tag. What was it? When you took it, was it a big boot? Did you know right there and there something was happening? Is this your first injury in wrestling?
It's my first significant
Okay.
injury in wrestling that has actually forced me to be on the sideline.
Okay.
we get hurt all the time, right?
Yeah.
Everybody, to their own detriment, people work hurt all the time. But when you're injured and you suffer an injury, you can't screw around. Uh, and I knew immediately once it happened, I was going to have to take some time off. But I also knew where I was at. And I looked around and I said, well, you just kind of got to do it. Protect yourself as much as you can and just do what you can during that time that you got left. But yeah, noodle arm immediately. I knew exactly.
And we talked about this at the last RWA. That was pretty on early in the match. You still did the rest of the thing.
Yeah, I mean, stupid by all means. And if I can suggest to anybody, if you're ever injured in a wrestling match, please, by all means, tell somebody and get out of there as fast as you can because you don't want to get hurt, right? Nobody wants to stay hurt. Further do damage. Unfortunately, I'm not. I don't practice what I preach, so I kind of still finished all my stuff because that's just what you do. And as soon as I was done, I was done.
So when I was starting to go to wrestling shows, even till now, the Middlesex, Stephen Luss, Perfect Strangers, they've had some of my favorite matches. Now, in your eyes, Stephen Luss, what have been some of your favorite matches so far in wrestling?
Man, so many.
Yeah, you've been a part of a lot.
I've done a lot of stupid stuff, and stupid as in physically, and stupid as in just moronic, right? Oh man, so many. I wrestled at a Comic-Con. That was cool. I really appreciated that. I got to wrestle Miles Morales, Spider-Man, and I was Kraven the Hunter. That was rad. I got to wrestle at Fenway. Yeah. Fenway was cool as hell. I did that a whole bunch of times. I got to do it with my best friend, nonetheless. So that's 2 baseball stadiums I got to wrestle at. That's pretty rad. Just all the stuff I'd done. Wrestling Tito with Tony was cool. I got to wrestle, man, just a litany of people. It's just so much. I got to wrestle at the Palladium. I got to wrestle Teddy Goods at the Palladium.
Yeah.
And shout out to Teddy Goods because Teddy Goods is rad as hell, one of the coolest dudes in wrestling, and he's one of the real ones and one of the genuine ones. And I wish him nothing but success.
What have been, to go with that, some of like your most memorable moments in wrestling?
Definitely winning the NCW heavyweight title and New England title because it was shot on me last minute. The whole night these guys are working me the whole stay in your gear. We got to do a promo. All right, cool. Stuff like that. Because that's shit that you won't forget. And again, not to go back on it from what I said earlier, but it was just cool. It was cool that they trusted.
So
also RWA, Triple Crown Championship.
I was gonna say that.
I was able to retire the Hype Championship before it came back.
I was just gonna say, I thought you retired that.
I sure did. But it's wrestling. Nobody ever stays retired, and that also goes with the championships. But that was also a really cool moment for me too. To go down in history and do that. It's just a whole bunch, man. Wrestle my best friend. I got to wrestle my best friend in an ice hockey rink with Brickhouse Baker as a referee. You know what I mean? Wow. That sticks out to me. And that was super cool. That was the Beantown Beatdown in Gloucester. I believe it was the second one. Chad Epik ran that. That was rad.
Was that the same show Cardona was on?
Correct. He was supposed to wrestle, but he got hurt. So Brian Myers stepped in. And that was me.
So I know we said it before. I know we talked about this before. The Middlesex Express never got to wrestle the Logan brothers. However, is there anyone right now that Stephen Luss considers like a dream match, whether it's singles or tag?
Oh, gee, yeah. It's funny. I say it all the time. I want to wrestle Enzo Amore. You know what I mean? I want to wrestle the real one. Just the promos alone would be gold. Man, I just so many. Like, do you want a list? Like, you
can say as many as you want.
Oh, geez, man. Jay Lethal would be great. I mean, he's just cool as hell. These are the people that I grew up watching. I grew up in the business watching. I mean, I would love to wrestle anybody in AEW just for the chance to be there. Dude, man, you put me on the spot. I don't know. So many people I think.
Yeah. So, Stephen Luss, you have been one of my favorite people in wrestling since I started till now, but I end every interview the same. So, Stephen Luss, I hope it's not anytime soon, but the day you're ready to hang up the boots, what do you want Stephen Luss's legacy to be remembered for in pro wrestling?
All right. So, I'm going to get a little sappy here, and I just I want people to remember me as being somebody who is willing to help anybody. I want everybody to know that everybody deserves a chance. Nobody nobody is better than anybody. Flat out.
Mm.
As people, nobody's better than anybody.
Yeah.
We all get up every day. We put our shoes on the same. We put our pants on the same. We all bleed the same way. It's, you know, wrestling is not fake, right? Wrestling's not fake, right?
Mm.
You can attest to that.
Oh yeah.
But pieces are put in place for a reason. And at the end of the day, even though hard work could earn you opportunities and hard work is noticed and appreciated by people, people put people where they are. And, for people to take themselves over seriously, and for people to not take themselves seriously enough to the point where somebody can get hurt, it's just, just be good to each other.
Mm.
I want people to know that I'm out there for the show, not for myself. I want people to know that it's okay to be upset about wrestling. It's okay to be upset if you're sad. You know what I mean? It's okay. I want people to know that I'm always going to be there for you if you need somebody to talk to, whether it's advice in wrestling, whether it's advice in life, whatever I can do, I will do for you. I want people to know that despite my gruff exterior and my 24/7 cowl, I'm always approachable.
Yeah.
Even on bad days, because even my bad day isn't as bad as somebody else's. I just want people to remember me as a good person. I want people to remember me as a good hand in wrestling. I want people to remember me as an upstanding part of this community, because not for nothing, there aren't a lot of upstanding people in this community. And, fortunately, they have been dwindled and weeded out of the business. But still, there are some people out there that aren't the best. And, just be the best. Just be the best that you can be. Sorry if we got cut off. Just be the best that you can be.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. I'm the right stuff, Stephen Luss. And I'm a good person, a good friend, and a good wrestler. And I want you to know that I love you guys.
Yeah. Steven, you have been one of my favorite people. I even know all these shows. My dad and my uncle say you're one of the best around. And the feeling is mutual, I think, with the whole locker room. Thank you for everything. Thank you for everything you've done for everyone, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you for continuously supporting me and my partner throughout the years, and supporting all the wrestlers, as a matter of fact. Thank you for supporting all the companies that I've worked for. Thank you for supporting the wrestling community in general. Thank you for putting your hard work and your effort into everything that you do, because you don't half-ass anything, bro. And it's annoying to see things that are half-assed, you know what I mean? And you go through with it 100% of the way. So all the kudos to you, and all the kudos to everybody in the wrestling business that are working hard, that are doing their part to make every show a whole, So, hell yeah.
It's been a fun ride. I was pumped at FightLife to call a show with you, and you still got more stories. So I think eventually down the line, we got to do a part 2.
Brother, let's do a part 2, man. Okay. I'm down. Always, always.
I pitched the idea to TJ Crawford of doing a Beach Bums reunion, but maybe one of these days we can get a Middlesex reunion.
I'll tell you what, that can 1,000% happen.
Yeah.
We can talk about all the stupid stuff that my partner and I used to do in the locker room. maybe not all of it, but we'll tell you a little.
Well, thank you, Stephen, for doing this. I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for watching this episode. This was Best for Business.